Stop settling for a life you don't even want. Most people fail not because they lack the potential, but because they've made a habit of negotiating with their own excellence. If you are tired of watching others cross the finish line while you're still tied to your excuses, then listen up, because the shift from should to must starts right here, right now. The core reason most people fail is that they become master architects of their own excuses, building elaborate structures out of conditions to justify why they aren't where they want to be. We've been conditioned to believe that our success is a byproduct of our environment, our upbringing, the economy, or the specific hand we were dealt. But that is a lie that keeps you small. The truth, the raw, unfiltered reality of high performance is that your life is not a reflection of your conditions. It is a direct result of your decisions. Most people are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect market, or the perfect support system before they pull a trigger. They are waiting for the outside world to change so they can finally feel ready. But if you wait for the conditions to be right, you will be waiting until the day they put you in the ground. Failure happens when you give your power away to things you cannot control. When you say, I failed because the market crashed, or I failed because I didn't have the capital, you are essentially saying that you are a leaf in the wind at the mercy of every breeze. Successful people, the ones who actually move the needle, understand that decision-making is the ultimate power. A single committed decision, a cutoff from any other possibility, changes the molecular structure of your future. It's the difference between being a victim of circumstance and being the commander of your soul. Think about it. There are people who had every advantage, every resource, and every good condition imaginable, and they still blew it. Then there are people who started with nothing in the worst possible conditions, but they made a decision that they would not be denied. They used their hunger, their pain, and their resolve to manufacture a new reality. The condition is just the weather, but your decision is the rudder on the ship. You can't control the wind, but you can damn sure set the sail. Most people fail because they spend all their energy complaining about the wind instead of grabbing the rudder and deciding where they are going to go. You have to stop being a manager of circumstances and start being a creator of results. It requires a fundamental shift in your identity where you realize that you are the cause, not the effect. When you take 100% responsibility for your decisions, you regain the power to change everything. You stop looking at what's happening to you and start looking at what's happening for you, using every obstacles as fuel for the next decisive action. Gemini said the hierarchy of needs and self-actualization, AI-generated Shutterstock, the second reason most people fail, and this is the silent killer of dreams, is that they are operating in the realm of should instead of the realm of must. If you look at your life right now, your bank account, your relationships, your physical body, they are not a reflection of your potential. They are a reflection of your standards. Most people have a long list of things they think they should do. I should get in shape. I should start that business. I should be more present with my kids. I should stop procrastinating. But here is the cold, hard truth. Nobody ever changes their life for a should. A should is a preference. It's a wish. It's something you do when it's convenient, when the sun is shining, and when you feel motivated. But the moment life hits you in the face, the moment you're tired or stressed or the economy dips, the should gets thrown right out the window. Most people fail because their goals are just items on a wish list that they negotiate with every single day. To get a different result, you have to shift your psychology so that your goal becomes an absolute non-negotiable must. Think about the things in your life you already treat as a must. You must pay your rent. You must feed your children. You must feed your children. You must show up for work so you don't get fired. Because those things are must, you find a way, you don't negotiate. You don't hit the snooze button on your children's hunger. You find the resourcefulness, the energy, and the drive to make it happen no matter what. Failure is what happens when you leave your greatest dreams in the should category while giving all your energy to the musts of survival. When you raise your standards and decide that a certain level of success is a must, your brain literally switches gears. It stops looking for excuses and starts looking for pathways. It moves from a passive state of I'd like to an active state of I will. This is the burn the boats mentality. When there is no other option but to succeed, when failing to hit the mark would be a violation of who you are as a human being, That is when you become unstoppable. Most people are just interested in winning. They aren't committed to it. Interest gets you started, but only a must gets you through the fire. You have to reach a point of threshold where the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of the change itself. You have to decide that you will no longer tolerate the mediocrity you've been accepting. Success happens the moment you take your dream out of the someday pile and move it into the right now pile, making it as essential to your existence as the very air you breathe. The third reason most people fail, and perhaps the most insidious one, is that they underestimate the invisible force of their environment. You've heard it said that proximity is power, but most people treat their social circle like a casual collection of coincidences rather than the literal blueprint for their destiny. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not just in your bank account, but in your emotional state, your health, and your hunger. If you are the smartest, most driven, most successful person in your room, you are in the wrong room. Most people fail because they are surrounded by individuals who are comfortable with good enough. When you try to raise your game, when you try to reach for that next level of existence, the people around you, often the ones who love you most, will unconsciously try to pull you back down. They don't do it because they're evil. They do it because your growth shines a bright, uncomfortable light on their own stagnation. They tell you to be realistic, to take it easy, or to not get your hopes up, and slowly, like a thermostat set to a lukewarm temperature, your internal drive begins to cool to match the room. If you want to reach a level of success you've never seen, you have to intentionally place yourself in environments where your extraordinary is considered ordinary. You need to be around people who play the game at a level that scares you, people whose floor is higher than your ceiling. When you are in proximity to greatness, you don't just learn their strategies, you breathe in their psychology, you see how they handle a crisis, you feel the intensity of their focus, and you realize that the barriers you thought were solid walls are actually just paper-thin curtains. Proximity provides a psychological bridge that makes the impossible feel attainable. Most people fail because they are trying to build a billion-dollar life with a 10-cent support system. They are trying to run a marathon while tied to people who only want to sit on the couch. You have to be ruthless with your environment. You have to audit your inner circle and ask yourself, is this person helping me grow or are they helping me rot? This isn't about being elitist. It's about spiritual and professional survival. If you want to soar like an eagle, you cannot keep scratching with the turkeys. You must seek out the mentors, the masterminds, and the peers who will demand more from you than you demand from yourself. Your environment is either a wind at your back or a weight on your shoulders, and if you don't consciously design it, you will default to the standards of the people who happen to be nearby. When you change your proximity, you change your perspective, and when you change your perspective, you change your life. The final, most profound reason people fail is that they haven't learned the art of raising their absolute standard. We all have goals and we all have standards, but there is a massive difference between the two. A goal is something you're shooting for. A standard is what you settle for. Most people live their lives based on their shoulds, but they are governed by their floor. Your floor is the lowest level of performance, the lowest level of financial security, the lowest level of physical fitness, and the lowest level of physical fitness, and the lowest level of emotional intensity that you are willing to tolerate. If your floor is set to just getting by, then the moment you hit a little bit of success, you'll unconsciously sabotage yourself to get back down to that comfort zone. But the moment things get slightly worse than just getting by, you'll find a way to survive because you won't tolerate going below that floor. Most people fail because their floor is far too low. They have a poverty floor or a mediocrity floor, and they've decorated it to look like a home. To change your life, you have to permanently move that floor. You have to reach a point of psychological threshold where you say, I will never be this out of shape again. I will never have this little in my bank account again. I will never treat my partner with this little respect again. When you raise your standard, you are essentially rewriting your identity. You are saying that the old me would tolerate this, but the new me finds it unacceptable. Success is not a destination you reach, it is a standard you live by every single day. It's about the small, consistent rituals that define your life. Most people fail because they are looking for a giant leap, a quantum jump, or a miracle to save them. But miracles are manufactured by the people who have a standard of excellence in the smallest details. When you raise your standard, your brain no longer sees the extra work as a burden. It sees it as a requirement of your new identity. You don't have to try to breathe. You just do it because it's a requirement for life. When success becomes a requirement for your identity, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, do I feel like it? And you start asking, is this who I am? People who succeed at the highest level have a standard that is so high it scares the average person. They don't do it to be better than anyone else. They do it because they cannot live with themselves if they give anything less than their absolute best. You must decide that your good is no longer good enough and that your great is just the beginning.